Now the printer itself, in this case an Epson R2400, we turn the printer on, we press the button so that the carriage goes to the ink change position, as we see here, and we take out our original brand cartridges. Now before we make the change, we make sure that we have a perfect nozzle check with the existing brand cartridges. If we don't achieve a perfect nozzle check, we obviously don't consider that we're ready to change over to the third-party inks. We now take out the OEM cartridges, as you see here. We put a little elastic band around these, and we keep those just in case any problems occur with the printer at a later stage. So we put those safely away. Now the next thing we have to do, very carefully, we have to remove the lid from the printer. It's quite simple. We get a flat bladed screwdriver and we just pull in this direction, as we see here, and again we keep the lid for future use if ever we want to return the printer to standard OEM cartridges. We now take out the cable from the back of the printer. We take out the mains cable so that the printer, just in case really, in case we accidentally push one of these buttons and it starts moving up and down, which we don't want. So now it's in the ink change position and the mains lead has been taken away from the printer, we can move the carriage manually up towards the left hand side of the printer. We can now take our cartridge bank that we filled up, as is nicely ready to go in. We can now arrange everything so that it's ready to go in the printer itself. Now in this case it's got the elastic bands already round here, and I've already put the spare cartridge on top. Now in this case the spare cartridge is the matte black cartridge. You may wish to put the photo black cartridge on the top in place. So it's entirely up to you whether you're doing gloss and satin printing or whether you're doing matte and fine art printing mainly. In my case we do gloss and satin printing mainly. So having moved the carriage across to the left hand side, what we now do is enter the cartridges underneath the crossbar, as you can see here, allow the tubing to come up, and we move the assembly underneath the crossbar. We can now move the carriage back to the ink change position. We're now safe to undo the two elastic bands that we've had holding everything together. And we now keep the order of the cartridges, and we very loosely put them into the carriage, as you see here, nice and loose. And we check that we've got the correct cartridges in the correct position, and we just loosely wobble them in, and as you can see we've got the spare cartridge, which is the matte black, and it nicely sits down. Here we have that's the matte black. It nicely sits down underneath the existing tubing. So long as we're happy with this, we can now push the cartridges in, and the cartridges are now being pierced by the printer itself. Now one of the last things we need to do, in with the kit, we have a little pressure plate. This little Perspex pressure plate pushes in the back here, and ensures that we have a good, even, reliable pressure for the chips to be read by the printer itself. So it means to say we've got a very reliable reading of the chips. Now, one of the last things we need to do is prepare the printer to accept the little self-adhesives. So we have our little alcohol swab. We take out the alcohol swab and we clean the areas that need to be cleaned, which is this middle piece here, this little piece here, and also up the top here and up the other end as well. So there's our alcohol swabs. Now we take a little piece of kitchen roll and we dry that off. Now the idea of this is we just remove any residue of grease that might be on top of the printer to make sure the adhesion is as perfect as we can make it. Now the tubing is intended to lay at right angles to the cartridges, as you see here, and we have a nice little support, and we stick that on top so that the tubing is in line with the tubing that runs underneath, and the edge there is in line. So this looks fine. So we can undo the sticky here, making sure it's all in line. We press that down, and the last little bit here, we can undo these twists later on, and the last little piece is the little clip that we see here, and that's the clip. Now these clips can be opened quite easily, okay, and we can undo this twist as we like. There's a little rubber buffer that we undo. We put one on this side and one at the other side, and that prevents the lid from closing down on top of the tubing. Now before we finally turn everything on, we need to manually push it up to the left hand side and make sure that we've got a reasonable tension, and you may want to just adjust that slightly until you've got a nice tension. Now we'll move your view so that you can actually see on this side of the printer, you'll actually be able to see the carriage as it moves across, as it goes this way. So that's the ink change position. As you can see here, comes across, it makes a nice arch across, and it can go all the way to the back. It's reasonably tight, but not too tight. We can adjust it slightly until it reliably gives us this arch, as you can see here. Now once we achieve this, we're quite safe now to turn the printer on. So what we do is put the electricity back in the back of the printer, turn on the printer itself, and we're looking for the printer to start up. We want to make sure there are no little red lights coming on across the top here, and also that we've got free travel left and right. Now once everything settles down so that the little green light at the right hand side of the printer is steady, we then check for a perfect nozzle check. Having achieved a perfect nozzle check, we then install the printer profiles supplied on the CD, which comes with the kit. Then we start printing. We print using the various Lyson papers that we've been given with the starter kit, and when we've decided on the favourite paper, our favourite Lyson paper, we can then create a custom profile test target which is contained on the CD. We print out the test target, we post that back to the Lyson laboratories, and in the laboratories they create a custom profile for you for your favourite Lyson paper to give you extremely accurate colour, accurate density, and most importantly an extremely smooth characteristic curve. Thanks very much for watching.